Yes, I think so, but it's probably worth us giving a little bit of colour into who we are beforehand. So just to introduce myself in a little bit more detail, my name is Luke Taylor. I'm the subject matter expert at Luminance. So what we're going to be doing today is taking you through a little bit of context into who we are, both as a company and as a technology, giving some color and light onto, how this tool is being used. A lot of what my work involves doing is actually getting on sort of strategic customer calls and helping find the best use cases for, our 300 plus customer base that is using us. And I'm also joined by Frederica, who is one of our wonderful commercial directors. And Freddie, I'll probably let you introduce yourself in a bit more detail before we get underway.
Thank you, Luke. Fabulous to speak to you all today. So my role at Luminance, I've been here for a couple of years now, is to essentially oversee that sort of global customer base and make sure that they are, again, getting the most out of the tool. But I've worked very much on the ground with them from, signing them up to implementing the tool to then, experiencing and experimenting with those use cases that Luke mentioned and that we'll shed some light on today. So yeah, we're really looking forward to speaking to you a bit more about how document review can be revolutionized with technology. So I think we'll start with a short presentation from Luke about our background and kind of what it's all about. And then we will bring this to life in the form of 2 demonstrations of 2 separate products of ours. And then we'll have a little chat at the end about some pressing questions that might be interesting to you all. So over to you, Luke, to begin.
Amazing. Thank you, Freddie. And so, to start with, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about Luminance and how this advanced artificial intelligence technology is transforming document reviews all around the world. And so, to do that, first of all, here at Luminance, we are really interested in understanding, the trends and challenges facing legal professionals today. So, we believe that we are currently witnessing a shift in the entire legal industry. This is due in part to the pandemic, as well as the data boom that we've seen, an increasing globalization of legal work too. And the new realities of remote working have brought about so many fresh challenges in terms of mental health and well-being. And as firms and organizations rethink their business strategies in light of COVID-19 and the current economic downturn, we can expect to see probably continued increases in the level of technology investment too. So utilizing technology to work smarter and faster is increasingly what it means to be a modern day lawyer. So one report that we conducted actually on the impact of COVID-19 on the legal profession in the UK found that more than 80% of lawyers now view technology adoption as essential for the future of their firm. So not only that, but also almost 80% of respondents recognize the importance of technology in helping them improve collaboration amongst team members, which is so important when everybody is still working from home, apart from me today. But in any case, in the face of new and changing legal rules and regulations, what technology also does is it allows firms to stay compliant and agile to all of this change. So, for example, technology can help ease the burden that businesses are facing when preparing for different aspects of life outside of the EU. Using Luminance, lawyers are able to proactively identify and assess Brexit-related business risk and also ensure compliance with a changing legal landscape. And, if you're wondering how we do that, it's worth explaining a little bit more about who we are as a company. So Luminance is at its core a machine learning company that was founded in 2015 by world experts in machine learning from the University of Cambridge. And it's a platform which is designed to support lawyers in document review processes. And the key thing about this is that what this technology does is not only read and understand documents, but most importantly, learn from the interaction between lawyer and document. And it's this innate ability that has allowed us to transform, M&A due diligence reviews, property lease abstractions, litigation e-discovery reviews, regulatory compliance, and more. And so the reason why is because it not only gives you greater insight into your documents, but it gives you greater control and the ability to speed up a review, as well as allow you to identify those key issues faster. And, you know, at this point, it's an incredibly well-proven technology. It's being used by all of the big 4 accountancy firms and 1/5 of the global top 100 law firms, as well as a whole host of in-house legal teams, ranging from banks to supermarkets to aviation companies and more. And so, again, that rapid growth that we've seen since launch now puts us as a worldwide business, you know, working in over 50 countries in 80 languages, and you know, the company's worth over $100 million now. And also, one of the interesting things is in the last 12 months, you know, through the COVID-19 pandemic that's still raging on, we've seen a huge increase in adoption of our technology at over 40% now. And I think the reason why is because the technology itself, you know, our tech hub in Cambridge is really the power of our entire company. And at the core of that is the legal inference transformation engine that you see in the middle here. So otherwise known as LIGHT, this is an engine that is powered by machine learning that allows Luminance to read and understand documents without explicitly being told what they are or what you're looking for inside them. And this core technology is being used to power a whole different host of different applications. And we've got 3 of them here in front of you. The first right here at the top is Luminance Diligence, which is designed to support the review and analysis of all kinds of commercial contracts in use cases such as M&A due diligence, you know, regulatory compliance, property lease abstraction that I was talking about before. And that's what Frederica is going to be taking you through a little demo very shortly. We also have Luminance Discovery, which is supporting litigation professionals with, you know, e-discovery, including, you know, groundbreaking AI augmented early case assessment. And then we also have Luminance in-house, which is brand new, which is designed for specifically the negotiation of contracts between versions and things like that, with a whole host of different insight that you're able to get. But the key thing about all of that I've just been talking about is that this makes it an incredibly flexible and scalable tool. So we've been used to support a whole host of different practice areas and use cases, and this grows all the time. So, you know, when I joined Luminance 3 years ago, the platform was primarily being used to accelerate, you know, due diligence exercises specifically within M&A, so mergers and acquisitions. But now the tool is being used to enhance all of these other document processes that I was talking about. You can see a whole bunch of them down at the bottom of your screen. And then just a couple of examples of these. You know, I mentioned regulatory compliance. Let's take this, give this a bit more color. So, you know, leading US firm Ice Miller were able to instantly identify 15 relevant data processing agreements within a set of 11,000 contracts. And they're estimating that they're able to work 20 times faster using Luminance than would have been possible manually. And then something else that's a real hot topic at the moment is DSARs, so data subject access requests, where you give a request to a company to get all of your data, which is hugely burdensome to do manually. But despite all of the COVID disruption, Scottish firm Bernice Paul, their DSAR reviews continued seamlessly. As you know, the thing about Luminance is it's deployed on the cloud, and the team was achieving time savings of 50% consistently across every single review that they're doing. And then another interesting one, you see in the bottom right of your screen there, insurance underwriting. And, you know, asset underwriting is using Luminance to uncover smoking guns all the time when they're only given a couple of hours to look at an entire data set. So with this example here, they were able to find out a key anomaly within the first day of review, of course, in a set of almost 2,000 documents. And so the reason why we are able to help all of these different things is the technology itself, which I've spoken about a little bit here, but to take a closer look at what this is made up of. So LIGHT, this engine, is made up of a blend of supervised and unsupervised machine learning. And Luminance is the only technology that combines the two of these learning algorithms, which allows it to read and form an understanding of legal data without any need for, you know, intensive pre-training or setup or configuration. And this is so important. So let's focus on unsupervised machine learning first. Essentially, unsupervised machine learning means that because it doesn't require any prior knowledge of labels or tags in order to solve a problem, instead, the machine is simply exposed to vast data sets, and by analyzing these in their entirety, the underlying patterns of the data are then revealed. And so what the system does is it quickly builds up a pattern of what is normal, and of course, then thus what is abnormal. And so what this means for you is that Luminance is the only thing that can surface these unknown unknowns, we call them, which is things that you didn't know you needed to look for and you didn't know existed, but nonetheless can still present themselves as a significant anomaly. And as an example, using Luminance, EY Law were able to instantly surface change of control clauses in document sets, where because Luminance analyzes all of the documents as soon as you upload them, as a result, it meant that they didn't have to spend time training the system to understand this kind of clause. They can immediately tell, again, on minute one of a review, whether these clauses were in favor or against their client. So that's unsupervised machine learning. But when we combine this with supervised machine learning, which is where the system is observing the actions of legal professionals in order to form an understanding of what you're looking for inside your documents, what this means is that Luminance is exposed to examples of data, forming an understanding of these, and then applies that knowledge to any new data sets that it sees. So for example, if you set one document as a model or a benchmark, you can instantly compare every other document, or even on a clause level, to that model, because again, Luminance has already identified all of the patterns thanks to that unsupervised machine learning, which means that as soon as I interact with them, I can then take advantage of Luminance handling the bulk of all of that data with every interaction within these documents. So as a quick example, we have a firm called Holston, which adopted Luminance to support a complex and thorough due diligence process for Eneco, which is a producer and supplier of energy in the Netherlands. And, in this case, their legal team were looking for specific permits in order to address change of ownership and to retrieve the land codes of all of the parcels to address to the relevant party. Now, work of that nature would previously have required you to open every single individual document, search for the numbers within them, check they're correct, and then compare them all against one another. But the thing with Luminance is that the team could show the system the first clause inside the first contract of what they're looking for, and Luminance immediately highlights every other document that has that same clause in it. So as a result of the success of that project, they're now using Luminance across so many different practice areas, including data extraction, compliance reviews, and more. And so let's go into a whole different example. So I've been talking a lot about commercial reviews right now, but let's talk about a murder investigation that Luminance was being used in. Key to Luminance's flexibility as a tool is its ability to be deployed almost instantly from anywhere using the cloud-based deployment. So for example, leading London Barristers Chambers, the 36 Group, recently used Luminance in advance of a high-profile and historic murder trial. Now, whilst previously the 36 Group had relied on using the Crown Court Case Digital Case System, which is a bit of a mouthful, so we'll call it the CCDS for now. Basically, it's this web-based platform used to access, prepare, and present information for court proceedings. But the whole problem with that is that the defense team, soon became aware that the CCDS was unable to cope with the complexities and data volume of their current case. And so what they decided to do is to use Luminance, which again, with rapid cloud deployment, an intuitive interface that we're going to show you in just a second, and advanced project management and collaboration tools. Basically, this meant that even though everybody was working remotely, the 20-person team were able to easily and securely access all of these documents and review them so much faster. So, one of the barristers that they led the project, Sally Hobson, estimated that between the beginning of the review and disclosure, the team were able to save around 4 working weeks. And again, that was the first time that they'd ever used the tool as well. So I think this is really key here, where if we take this another step further, Luminance also helped Avianca, which is a Colombian airline. Their in-house legal team really needed to modernize its outdated and resource-intensive contract review processes amid government-enforced travel restrictions. And so what Luminance did is instantly identify commercial clauses key to the review. This is things like termination, assignment, confidentiality, indemnification, but also using Luminance as a contract repository. Essentially, what they're able to do now is have one intelligent central point for enterprise-wide data, all in one place, all augmented by this machine learning. And so the other key thing about this is there's this real snowball effect where, because this tool is learning from every single interaction between lawyer and document, within days it becomes an immediately bespoke tool for your organization straight away, which is really cool. And again, we'll show you just what that looks like in a second. But one of the other things I want to talk about just before we jump into the first demonstration is just some of the trends that we've seen due to technology. And, given this huge trend towards digitization in recent years, I just want to take a moment to speak how technology has really benefited some lawyers' careers. So in today's legal sector, it is vital that lawyers make effective use of technology in order to set themselves apart. The challenging economic climate resulting from COVID-19 has underlined the importance of gaining that competitive edge. And, we've seen pay cuts, hiring freezes, redundancies that have been announced at so many different firms, large and small, as well as within in-house legal teams too. And as lawyers are looking for ways to make themselves indispensable for their teams and their clients, AI presents an obvious solution. So Dr. Arthur here, who is an associate at Bird & Bird, which is a leading UK law firm, he was talking about how leveraging AI is not only increasing the competitive advantage, but also allowing him to see how technology will enable him to advance his career. And so we see this a lot. Junior lawyers who are capable of using artificial intelligence will not only increase the efficiency of their work, but will also be able to work across extra projects with the time savings that this technology is delivering. And so they're able to imbibe so much more learning in that first couple of years, which is so critical when you're getting up and running as a lawyer. And, from another point of view, we're also looking for talent in a whole variety of fields. So this is from software engineering to sales and marketing. And so, just as a side note, if you want to join a company, at the forefront of AI and machine learning, we'd love to hear from you too. So feel free to contact us at, careers@luminance.com, or even learn more on our website, luminance.com. But I think for now, that's probably enough abstract at this point. Frederica, I'd love to pass over to you now, who's going to take you through a demonstration of our diligence platform. So remember, this is the tool that is looking after all manners of commercial reviews before I then take you through the investigation. So Frederica, do you want to take over the screen sharing for now and take us through what we've got to offer from this side?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Luke. So I think we'll try and make this a little colourful compared to just the talk that we've just been giving, which is great context, but let's see how this works in practice. So what you can see is if I'm a lawyer, all I do is I launch my Luminance site on Google Chrome. And at the moment, we're looking at the diligence site. So that could mean I am looking at this project in front of me in any number of contexts. I could be advising in the context of an M&A due diligence exercise. I could be reading a bunch of leases and abstracting information from them. I could be an insurance underwriter. I could be an in-house lawyer reviewing my contract estate. Whatever it is, it will look like this to me. And what we have here is one sort of contract estate, if you like, from Voice Phone Limited. Now, to begin with, I think we'll look at this from the context of an M&A due diligence. So let's say I'm advising my client on the acquisition of Voice Phone, and we've got to get through a number of documents in a short amount of time. So to get to this point, I've simply uploaded my documents, be that through dragging and dropping them in a folder that's on my desktop, or maybe I'm synchronizing with, another data storage system or virtual data room like Box or Intralinks or something like that. Either way, Luminance is then using that unsupervised learning and pattern recognition that Luke described so well to help give me insights about those documents that I either couldn't achieve manually or would take me a very long time to. And that gives me initially this visualization. So this is our visualized screen, and it's designed to give us an instant insight into perhaps like the size and the scope of these particular documents in front of us. And it can help me sort of focus my review. Where do I start? Are there areas of risk that I notice immediately? And it's organizing and categorizing the documents through its analysis into these various widgets, which we can interact with. Now, let me take you through a few of these. We can see the documents arranged by type. So kind of what area of the business or what type of document do these relate to? We've also got more specifically contract types. So if I want to just look at my NDAs, for example, I could click here and just filter down to those. It'll do the same with clauses. So it's already able to tell me, based on the information it's analysed, what kinds of clauses we are seeing within these documents. We've also got anomalies, which Luke mentioned as those sort of deviations that it has found from what it knows is standard. And we'll look at an example of that. I've also got some currencies, any mention of a country or region on this map. And I also see all the languages in my documents. It is a language agnostic tool, meaning not only will it recognize any language, but it will also learn in many languages as well, beyond just Latin script. We've recently developed machine learning in a number of Asian scripts, also Hebrew, Greek, some Cyrillic scripts, Russian, Arabic, the list goes on. So that is a huge advantage with teams, working across borders, for example. Now, at the bottom, there is something I do want to focus on quickly. And I think this brings to life a lot of the theory that Luke was talking us through. So this is a visual representation of the unsupervised learning. That is the tool's ability to look at the patterns in documents and understand the similarities and differences within those patterns. So each dot is one document here. And if I'm a lawyer starting my M&A due diligence review, a very sensible thing to know would be how many documents are similar to one another, which ones are different, and therefore how uniform or not is this data room as a whole, and perhaps how long is this review going to take me. So I can see here I've got 2,000 documents of the same type. I'd want the same lawyer to review them probably to make things far more efficient. And we'll come back to this as a theme throughout. But this is an interactive screen. So it might be that actually today I am interested in my commercial documents. Perhaps I'm interested in those in a particular currency or those that mention a particular region. Let's go with Qatar. Let's say I knew that VoicePhone had dealings in the Americas and Europe, but perhaps the Middle East was somewhere I wasn't expecting. So today I'm going to focus in on these 36 documents. Now, one of the first things I want to be sure of in any review, be it with technology or not, is that I'm keeping track of exactly what we have or haven't reviewed. So first things first, I want to use our workflow tools. Obviously, incredibly important during a global pandemic where everyone's working from home, that the workflow is not disrupted at all. So we have the ability to create tasks within the platform. I guess this is the Luminance equivalent of, sending a list of documents that you want someone to look at in an email. Instead, we do it here. So maybe I call this task Qatar documents. And it's designed to be very collaborative. So I can actually add, let's say, my colleague Bob onto this review with me, who's an expert in commercial documents regarding the Middle East as well. So I can create that task, and that means Bob also gets an email just now saying that you have these documents to review, log into Luminance and begin. And at this stage, we've gone through our visualized screen already. He might take a look at that and perhaps notice there's some anomalies. He might notice that there are 2 sets of governing law on this particular map. But then he'll probably want to get into more detail. So at that point, that's where we may switch from this very useful visualized screen to our details screen instead. Lawyers love detail, so they spend a lot of time on here. And this enables us to conduct a really quick comparison of a particular clause we're interested in, or maybe a particular set of dates across this set of 36 documents. So bearing in mind, we started off with 5,000. I've immediately found the 36 that I would have sifted through to find manually. I found them straight away through that filtering. All right, so let's say assignment. Assignment is something we're interested in. And again, harking back to what a manual review would entail, I would be opening each PDF at best, maybe a paper copy one at a time, to compare my assignment clauses. Here, I'm able to do that in one place. So I can actually take a quick overview of these assignment clauses without having to open each and every document. But of course, I still have the ability to just hop into the page of the document where that clause sits. You're never removed from the context. Context is everything when it comes to legals. Obviously, you want to understand what the implication is based on where that clause sits. So you're able to do that as well. But also from this screen, I might find things, other things related to these documents that I find interesting. For example, right here, we have a red tab in that anomalies column, which means that Luminance has found something different within this particular document here. And what is that difference? Well, it's telling us that through that pattern recognition, it's understood that there are nearly 2,000 similar documents here. So probably in one of those clusters together, you know, they share very similar patterns of language. But there's one clause, that is this limitation of liability clause here, that differs in some way to what is more normal. So if we click on that, we come into the document. So you'll see now I still have every single document top to bottom if I want to review it that way. But I can use tools like this to get some deeper insights about these documents. So again, we've got those statistics, but really what I want to know is, okay, fine, this one is different, but how different? Why does it differ? What is more standard here? And on the right-hand side in green, we have an example of a more common form of this particular type of clause. Typically, there's a cap on liability here. That's very standard. That's what I'd expect to see. But on the left, what I have is our anomalous clause, which has unlimited liability. Now, I think importantly here, that's not Luminance telling us anything in particular about the clause in terms of the implications of that. But that is an instant connection that's only possible with this kind of unsupervised learning that I simply could not achieve, or if I did achieve it manually, it would have taken me looking at 2,000 documents and realizing that this one is different. But it's made that connection for me. However, I can decide what to do with that. So that is something I would want to alert our client to. And in that case, I want to make a note about it. And instead of, you know, sticking a sticky note to a piece of paper, I'm actually going to put a note beside this clause here. And I can give it a title, and I can enter comments about this particular clause. But the key here is that any of my colleagues who now come into this document, they're going to see that note. So it's really collaborative in that way. I don't need to alert someone in particular. I don't need to take this outside of the platform. Right here, we can see that note. And also all of those notes are collated on this notes screen here in real time. So I can see exactly what is going on in this project as the project manager, and I can hop back into that document. So what else can we see in our documents? We have the ability to navigate through. So perhaps I'm interested in, you know, my force majeure clause. I can go straight to that particular clause in the contract. I've got 11 pages here. What if I'm dealing with 300 pages? I actually see it all the time. I want to be able to hop across that document really easily. The other thing, though, is I might be interested in something that Luminance has not picked up. So you see how we can see it's recognized this particular clause with these gavel icons on the left. I am actually focused on something really specific today, and that is a software warranty. So you can see how I can just search across this document, but also this would apply in any other documents as well. I'd be able to look across all of them for the results for software warranty. But I'm focused on this one for now. And I can see, again, we don't have that gavel icon here, so Luminance hasn't seen this particular clause before, but I need to find and review it across the whole document set. So what I'm going to use is clause tagging, supervised machine learning, as Luke described it. So this is my act of saying to the tool, actually, I want to tag this as a new type of clause because it's important to me. Now, in the immediate term, what it's going to do is it's already read the documents, it's already understood them. And so it knows that actually this particular pattern of language here appears across nearly 2,000 documents. So we can see that just loading there. And again, that is an instant connection that I simply could not achieve manually. But not only that, underneath, I can see similar paragraph suggestions. So that is the case where perhaps we have a variety of software warranties written in lots of different ways. So they're conceptually similar, they're relevant to me right now, but actually there's some slight differences. If that were the case, I could actually say that actually, yes, these are additional examples of software warranty, or don't suggest this again. Now, either of those actions, not only is that helping my immediate review, because when I come to those later documents, I've already identified those, what would have been like 4,000 clauses, but actually in the longer term, being supervised machine learning, it's actually learning from what I've just done. So it's learning that software warranties are important to me, and in future projects, it's actually going to be looking for them specifically. And you can see how, by tagging these now, that benefits not only this review, but my future reviews. And I'm actually achieving not only time savings, but confidence in that I'm exposing what I need to and that I'm finding what I need to a far greater extent than if I were just working manually here.
Yeah, and just to jump in as well, to add on to that, the other key thing that we see with this all the time, the exact activity that you've just seen Frederica do is surface so many different examples of a clause that Luminance had never understood before. But what this means is that with those suggestions as well, you are potentially able to surface 5, 6, 7 different variations of clauses, as well as every single other document where each of those clauses are found, just from seeing one example inside the first contract. So even when I go through the discovery tool as well, and what Frederica's just been showing, when we talk about that instant connection, this is exactly what we mean. And sorry, Freddie, I'll stop interrupting at this point.
That's all right, Luke. I'm just wrapping up the diligence demo anyway, because we've still got a bit to get through before the end of the session. But just one thing to point out that I think is really important is that, again, we've shown Luminance something new, and it's already for looking for whether there are differences within that new thing that it has learned. So it's told us that actually there are 2 documents missing that software warranty where it would otherwise expect to find one. Again, how on earth would I achieve that manually without this kind of technology? It would take me a long time to figure not just what is there, but what isn't there. There's plenty more this diligence tool can do. For example, I could compare model documents. As Luke was saying at the beginning, we have a new integration with Microsoft Word whereby I can edit documents in the context of a negotiation or repapering exercise. I can create reports external to Luminance with all the information that we've collated in here. But hopefully this has given you a taste of how we are resolving any situation where a computer meets a contract, essentially. But I have barked on enough about contract review. I'm very passionate about it. Luke is passionate about investigations. So he's going to show us the discovery tool now.
Thanks, Frederica. And I think, as you've just seen, Luminance Diligence is covering almost any kind of commercial contract review. But we also have Luminance Discovery in our arsenal. So if I actually just get my screen share up here, essentially what this is a tool that can help across a wide range of e-discovery requirements. And this is from, data processing all the way through to production. And so if I come into here, and hopefully you can see my screen, what we have here is something that can help pretty much any legal team, no matter the review project, across our 2 tools here. So going into discovery a bit deeper, you'll notice it looks very similar. It's the exact same engine, that light, working underneath it. So we just understand that here, instead of looking at the relationships between contracts, we're looking at the relationships between people, for example. So, as we come into Luminance, we get a look at this screen, where here we have actually got a couple of different modes that I may have access to depending on my role in a particular case. So, whether you're interested in uploading data, reviewing it, completing a production, or of course, performing an investigation, you have all the tools that you need. So to show you some of the more important features of Luminance Discovery, I'm going to go into this investigate mode. So for the purposes of this, let's imagine that we are, we're going to use a subset of data from the very famous Enron investigation of the early 2000s. And when I open up this project, you'll notice just how similar this is. So again, we're talking about the same technology because we want one tool that can help everybody. So you don't have, 6, 7 different tools that you all have to learn individually. So immediately, the first thing Luminance is always giving you is this instant insight of an entire data set, within minutes of uploading documents. So I'm able to begin reviewing straight away. And these widgets do exactly the same thing as in diligence. It allows me to navigate around the data set, but again, I'm able to immediately understand, some of the relationships between the people in this investigation. So if I wanted to see, every email from Stephen Keen that went, to Elizabeth Linnell, that had, Jeff in CC, you can see just how easily I'm able to navigate around this data set too. But before we get into some of the more unique things that Luminance is doing, I also want to point out some of our incredibly useful and intuitive filters. So Frederica was talking to you about some of these in diligence, but with Discovery, we've got a couple of really useful ones here. So, the first one is the hide duplicates button, which takes my set of 40,000 documents all the way down to 13,000, which I can immediately and confidently lessen my review workflow before I've even opened a document up. And in addition, there's also another one that we've got here, leaf email, which basically means it will just show me the top email of any chain with everything else inside. So again, immediately I've been able to shave off and scythe out a whole host of irrelevant documents for my review. And we actually saw this yesterday with a customer all the way in Estonia who they were doing a compliance and competition audit, which they managed to complete. They just completed it yesterday in less than a week, where they took a data set of 70,000 documents, and using things just like this, they got that all the way down to 600 documents. And so again, you can see just how quickly and easily I'm able to do this. So, if we think about early case assessment, which is where I need to know immediately, how much liability I have so I can inform my negotiations and whether I settle or take something to trial. What I want to now show you is Luminance's AI-powered early case assessment. So immediately, what I'm going to do here is flip to our Discover mode, which takes this exact same set of documents, but allows me to look at them from an entirely different perspective. And so what I see in front of me here is the entire corpus of documents laid out in the visualize screen here, but in 3 dimensions. So I can move this around. So if we move this here, the x-axis is representing time, and the y and z axes are representing the relationship and how similar the documents are to one another. So each of these single dots represents an individual document inside here, which is really cool. And so the basic thing with this is from data set to data set, you'll be presented with a unique visualization and clustering of documents that will show you the relationship between any kind of documents in any kind of review. And so in practice, this means that, regardless of my knowledge of data, I can already begin to start looking for clues. So starting, for example, on the right-hand side with these spikes of activity and similarity at particular points in time. So, again, if I know a lot about my case going in, I can begin applying those filters that Freddie and I have just been taking you through and narrow down this data set. But if I don't know anything about this, Luminance is going to help me analyze this and pick up the trail. So, for example, we see there's a big spike here at the end of 2000. And let's say we are interested in everything from Stephen Keen, let's take the end of December. Let's take December through to March. And again, I can immediately shuffle down this data set and look at all the emails from Stephen Keen just within this time period. And again, immediately, if I move this around, so you can see with the x-axis, you can start to see the spikes of activity here. And the other thing is, what Luminance can also do is conceptually understand how similar documents are together. So if I look at any one of these contracts or these documents, I can immediately go from here, preview them if I want to, and actually find similar documents. And so what Luminance will also allow me to do is to get the 25, in this case, most similar documents to what I'm currently working with. And by using unsupervised machine learning that we've been talking about so much, it's actually comparing all the documents at a pace and depth far beyond human capacity. And again, I can preview these from here. I could open them up from here. You can see a similar view when inside these documents too that you've seen with diligence. Again, we want it to be similar. You can even look at a list of these documents and have them sorted by their relevance to what I was looking at before. So there's a whole host of ways I can quickly get an understanding for what's inside this data set. Now, in the interest of time, Very quickly, I'm just going to explain what this term analyzer is, which basically allows me to easily find and allocate documents in any kind of parameters. So as Freddie was showing you when we were looking for that software warranty clause, I might actually want to look through all 40,000 emails for any mentions of, destruction of evidence. So I might go, all mentions of destroy or destruct or banana, that I can do anything. And essentially, well, we've actually got 12 emails that mention banana, but again, you can see how quick this is in allowing me to surface potentially key information, where I can then allocate this just in the same way as Freddie was showing you with those documents. It's super intuitive. Again, so useful when everybody is working from home, and get that review underway. But now, just to finish up, I want to talk about technology assisted review, otherwise known as TAR. And here, the machine learning is once again helping me and my team save a whole load of time by supporting me with this machine learning. So, for example, if I wanted to take a look at any one of these reviews that we were going on here, we're going to look at this deep coding. Let's look at this financial analysis on Stephen Keen, which is a task made up of about 5,000 documents, with the issue being, people are marking documents as either relevant or irrelevant. And so if we open this up, let's take you through this, because there's a lot of things going on here, but I'll take you through it bit by bit. Down in the bottom left, you see a heat map, which is all of the documents underneath the review, automatically clustered by Luminance, similar to that screen that Freddie was showing you before. It's clustering them according to similarity. So imagine each of these tiles on this screen are physical boxes of documents. And Luminance has already gathered together all the conceptually similar documentation and filed it in one of these boxes, and so on and so forth across the data set. So the depth of color on each of these boxes is also showing me at a glance how much of these documents have been reviewed already. And so essentially this allows me to at any time see the breadth of the review that's been going on so far, how balanced that it has been, and whether it's been representative of the data set as a whole. So, imagine if we were manually reviewing these documents without this structure, looking for that smoking gun, and it might be in one of these gray boxes here that hasn't been reviewed by anybody, and we're not able to see that. But with Luminance's deep coding analysis, I can intelligently sample documents from any box and quickly decide how the review progresses. But this goes a whole step further. So another aspect of Luminance's deep coding capability is also shown on the screen, and this is the ability to auto-code documents. So what you see here is this histogram of all the documents. Luminance is showing in green and red the documents that have been marked by people as relevant and irrelevant, respectively. But in grey, you'll actually see all my uncoded documents placed on this graph. So here, Luminance has done something really clever. It's red informed an understanding of all of the documents, and using machine learning and updating its understanding based on how, let's say, Freddie and I have been marking these documents as review as relevant or irrelevant, it's automatically ranked them according to their relevance. And so I can quickly see the most relevant documents and the least relevant documents and prioritize this review. But what I can also do is see these reviewer conflicts. So documents here that have been marked as irrelevant, but Luminance is thinking is relevant. So I might start there first as part of a quality control process, which again, that essence of control is something so important here. But I can also leverage this machine learning to an entirely new extent and actually auto code all of these documents based on the review that I've been doing. And this is truly game-changing when I've got a timeline or a very large data set as well. So just to finish here, the key thing to remember is what's going on here is I am in complete control to decide when and if I want to use this feature. And you can set the threshold at which Luminance will mark things as relevant and irrelevant. And so, if I want to be, over-inclusive and mark all of this as relevant, I can even be under-inclusive and do the opposite. Again, I have total knowledge and control over this, as well as Luminance giving me updated precision and recall scores. So I have complete insight into what's always going on here too. And when I'm happy, I can also code the rest of these too. And this is just a taste of Luminance's machine learning e-discovery technology. It's worth noting there's so many other parts of this, similar to what Frederica was explaining with diligence. You know, Luminance has a groundbreaking production capability that takes just a couple of minutes at most to automatically bundle together your review and a hyperlinker, an integration with Microsoft Word, along with something that means that you can have your chosen referenced order of documents in your desired format ready for submission, again within minutes. And so, you know, to finish that up, what we have been talking about is a technology that is able to handle any kind of review, from commercial shipping contracts that Luminance has never understood before, between entire millions of documents requiring early case assessment, requiring an answer within the first, you know, day or two of review. The key thing about this machine learning that we've managed to utilize is the fact that because it is just looking at patterns by itself, all it is doing is sitting there, not only giving you this insight immediately, but waiting for you to interact with any one of these documents, which will take that one insight and immediately apply it across the bulk, which gives you a tool that can save you huge amounts of time, provide so much more insight on any kind of document review. And so that probably concludes the whirlwind of functionality that you guys have been very good at getting through all of that in this short amount of time. And I think, you know, with that, what we'd like to do now is actually just take a couple of minutes and do a little bit of a fireside chat between Freddie and I, just to highlight some of the key themes that we've seen going on across all of these, across this entire industry as well. So, you know, Frederica, I guess a question for you, you know, in your position as, you know, a commercial director, you work with lots of the largest law firms in the world, as well as huge in-house legal teams of all different shapes and sizes. But I guess it'd be useful to get your perspective on, you know, what you've seen as some of the most interesting applications of this artificial intelligence to a legal case or review project that you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, you've covered a lot of projects, Luke, throughout this, but I would say there's three favorites. You've got two mergers and a murder, actually. So two mergers and a murder. The murder you've already talked about, but I think it's absolutely incredible that, you know, criminal law is probably, within a very antiquated industry, the most antiquated area of it. And the fact that London Barristers Chambers made history, becoming the first team to deploy AI to assist with their defense preparations for a murder trial, and shaved 4 weeks off it in the process. I think that is, you know, a real landmark moment for the legal profession. So that's the murder. There's also two mergers that I really like. One I'll talk about quickly, but I think this, rather than sort of the volume piece, this really focused on kind of the value piece of where a lawyer or a legal team added astronomical value to their client offering. So essentially, this was in the context of acquiring a target. And in this case, what happened was there was actually a deal killer surfaced through Luminance right on within 20 minutes of then looking at these 1,000 documents. So essentially what this revealed was that there had been a real misrepresentation of the value of this company by the target, and using Luminance, they were able to reveal that fact within 20 minutes, actually looking at a piece of information that it had never seen before. So I think talking about adding value to your client, otherwise that would have been revealed much later on. It could have been missed, maybe during even integration of those companies once the deal had gone through. So I think that's a favorite of mine. But then there's my volume-based favorite, which was based on 200,000 documents being reviewed. Actually, they were only meant to review 20,000 of them. This was Bird & Bird in Germany. And the reason they were only going to review 20,000 is who on earth has the time, resource, and capacity to review 200,000 manually? But it was an employment-related review, and what they managed to do using Luminance, instead of just working on that sample manually, is that it took two people 2 weeks to review 200,000 documents. And just to give that some flavor, on the 20,000 document sample set, that took 8 people 3 weeks to review manually. So I think just looking at the volumes there, that is incredible. And again, allowed that firm to offer something to their client that, you know, was far beyond the realms of possibility without technology. So I think those are probably my three favorites, Luke. But I've got a question for you. And that is really focused on, you know, the fact that the role of a lawyer is really changing very quickly with the exponential increase in data, and that comes with, of course, new client pressures and global digitalization. So what do you think, based on that, that the legal profession is going to look like in, let's say, 5 years' time?
It's a loaded question. There's a couple of elements to that, I think. The first is, you know, for someone like me who was initially interested in being a lawyer, but fell out of love with it, even during university, at just the sheer work that you had to get through just on the grunt work side of things. I think what we've immediately seen now, and I think will continue to proliferate as technology becomes the norm for everybody as an essential tool, is, you know, firms being able to, you know, support the work of junior lawyers and paralegals using technology to do that. So, you know, to give that a bit of example, a lot of my friends that are all trainees at the moment are doing, you know, document intensive, repetitive document review, and, you know, manually doing huge stacks of documents is increasingly being recognized as a huge waste of time and a waste of talent. So the key thing that we've seen with Luminance is that, you know, because it's able to instantly highlight key data points, clauses, anomalies, and replicate every single piece of analysis that the lawyer is doing across the bulk, it means that, you know, the young lawyers are actually being able to focus on the higher value critical thinking and analysis part, which is what they have to develop in any case to become, you know, a fully fledged lawyer and being able to provide value to clients. And I think we actually had a webinar recently on this where Gavin Williams, who's a partner at Holland and Knight, actually mentioned the fact that Luminance is allowing, you know, young lawyers to push their skills faster, resulting in, you know, better quality and better work product, which is closer to being client ready than ever before. And again, when I was talking a bit about mental health and burnout that we see as such a huge problem within the legal industry. It happened to me before I'd even started. Again, this is such a huge thing that I think is going to, again, really transform that. I guess another trend, just quickly to finish off before we pass over this Q&A to everybody else, was, you know, something else that we see. I think you mentioned it on that example of the M&A due diligence where they surfaced that key clause really quickly. Is, as I recall, that actually was a smaller firm that didn't normally were able to compete for that kind of work. And we're seeing this leveling of a playing field for smaller to mid-sized law firms. We're seeing in-house legal teams becoming more autonomous with this. And again, this is why, you know, we see Luminance being used by White & Case with thousands of lawyers all around the world. We're seeing it be used by JAP Law in Barcelona, which is just 3. And having technology at your core, allowing you to compete for technology and projects that you would otherwise have not been able to take on, you know, large scale due diligence reviews like that 200,000 document data set you were talking about. I vaguely remember them saying something about being able to complete 50 projects in the same time that it would have taken them to conduct the review manually. So the key to that as well is the ability to handle all of this other work and expand as we go. So a whole host of things there, but I can see there's a whole bunch of questions.
I was going to say, stop. We have questions. Can you read them?
I can. So we got one from Paul who was asking about the original creators of the technology at the University of Cambridge, and that is our chief architect, Adam Guthrie, and our chief technical officer, which is James Loxham. So the two of them are incredible people that lead our wonderful team at Cambridge. And, you know, all of the investment that goes into our company, most of it goes into R&D and technology. Again, the reason why we're able to offer all of these functionalities, 90% of what we showed you today came from customer feedback and requests and things that we were able to implement and take. So, you know, the great thing about that is we're such a dynamic technology and team as well at the core of that. And Rosemary mentioned model documents, and if we could just elaborate on that a little bit. And this is a really great question, actually. So this is something we've seen so much over the last 12 months where M&A activity, which was, you know, you get in quick, find the smoking guns, which Luminance's anomalies help you with. But that activity went through the floor to begin with. But actually, so many of these kinds of use cases where it can be used in so many different things, Rosemary, because you are able to choose any kind of document or clause as a benchmark and compare everything else to this. So when you've got in-house legal teams with no contract harmonization at all. I think you mentioned that here, where you've got a whole lot of disorganized know-how, I think you put it. This has been a huge one where, first of all, remember that clustering that Freddie was showing you, where Luminance is automatically finding standards? That already takes you so far through that. And so many people don't even know what the standard form is. So they can immediately see what a standard is, how far you've deviated from a template. You could then set one of those as your benchmark and compare all other documents in there going forward. And then if you're an in-house legal team that's doing this from a knowledge base and having all of your model versions and templates on there, any new documents that you come in are instantly getting compared and cross-referenced with your models for huge insight benefits with that too. And then quick question about uploading of documents. So with that, super simple. You can do it with a drag and drop. You zip up all your files, you throw it onto Luminance, it'll unpack it by itself. In our diligence tool, it does it at about 5,000 pages an hour. So again, you should be up and running within minutes. With our discovery tool, we often see terabytes getting thrown at it, and millions of documents. And we expect, a couple of hours with that. So it really is as fast as that. We pride ourselves on quickly deploying a tool that is able to help you immediately. And I think with that, just checking if there are any other questions here. We've got one just applying to patterns. That's a really good question. I personally haven't actually seen any pattern ones, but I can definitely check back internally and share that with you, Stephen. I think we've also had a question from Gordon on the same thing. But with the searching, I guess, to explain what Luminance can do, and again, I can hopefully provide some color and send that to you guys afterwards, but what Luminance is able to do is a whole bunch of things with searching. One, it'll use something called stemming. So, if I looked for the word terminate, it would also give me hits for termination, terminating, etc. It also recently introduced a conceptual search, so backed by AI now, where it will provide synonyms for those words. So if I was looking for liable, it would be giving me hits for responsible and things like that as well. So essentially the whole purpose of that is that you're not having to do 8, 9, 10 different searches for the piece of information that you're interested in looking at. You can do 1 or 2, and Luminance will again give you that ability to preview and understand these things where they sit within the context of those documents that you're looking at, as well as looking at them from a whole variety of different perspectives. But again, let me go back internally and get some specific examples on patterns. I'm sure that will probably be useful as well. And just as a note as well, for all those that may have questions after this, you've got an ability to send us emails. So my email address is luke.taylor@luminance.com, and Frederica's follows the same format. But we've also got a quick question from Rosemary as well that said, can it help with structuring your know-how? And the answer is absolutely. So there's also a whole side of it where not only can you go and mark documents as standards, as I was talking about before, allowing you to look at them from a whole variety of different angles, but also it allows you to cut out so much noise within a bunch of documents. So remember that first screen, that first dashboard that gives you all of this insight into the documents. So often we'll see organizations throw all the documents they have at it, be able to look at them from all of these different angles, actually suss out within the first day, I've got a whole bunch of documents here that we actually didn't need. They were just lying around that aren't helpful to anybody, or they're duplicates, let's say. You can cut all of those out immediately and immediately structure your data set how you see fit. As well as automatic allocation of documents too. So, particular kinds of documents go to other particular people too. So there's a whole host of things with that, Rosemary. And again, happy to elaborate further if that's still a little unclear. But that is putting us right up to the hour. Are there any other questions, I guess, before we do?
Timing.
Louise, back over to you, I think.
Yeah, no, I would just say that it's such a powerful thing, isn't it? Isn't AI? It's such a powerful tool for interrogating documents and contracts and all that complex stuff that you've got, and unstructured information as well. It's really impressive. So yeah, Rosemary says thank you. I guess, yeah, that brings us on. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time and for doing the demos and stuff live. You've obviously done this before. You're so slick at it. That makes our job really easy. So thank you very much for that. We can send around your email addresses, and if there's anything else you want us to send around, I guess that's a question to Anya as well. Then we can do that in the follow-up email, because there are a number of people that aren't here live. We have recorded it as well, so we'll probably top and tail it, and if you're all happy with it, then we will send the link to that round as well. So yeah, thank you so much. That was great, and it's really interesting to learn more about one of our members. So thank you very much for offering to speak. And if anybody else wants to have a go on the Zoom platform, we're more than happy to host you. So no, that's great. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Bye.